So in this video, we're going to take a quick break away from Unity, jump over into Visual Studio, and we're going to talk about setting up a template. The reason is we're coming up on the enemy, and with the enemy, of course, we're going to be creating a new script. I don't want for you guys that are following along using Visual Studio to have to continuously come into our project panel here, right-click, and create the script, because what's the problem, Zach?
We've had to do all this back and forth where we have to change the name of the class to match the name of the script.
So the name comes in as new mono behavior or new behavior or something like that, but you got to change it to the name of the class you want. But then you can't drag and drop because the class name needs to be changed. So then you got to jump over into Visual Studio. We can simply set up a template that we can use over in Visual Studio to add our scripts, and we no longer need to add them here.
Okay.
And as I had mentioned in an earlier video, as soon as we jump back over to Unity, Unity is going to see anything new that we've created externally that resides in any of these folders, and it will suddenly appear. So that's very convenient.
Gotcha.
So let's jump over here and take a second to look at what I do have set up right now, because of course, since I use Unity for real, that means I do have templates that I use. So if I come up here to script, let's say that we were going to create the enemy. If I was to right click, come over here to add and say add a new item, and now it's going to come up and ask, all right, what do you want to create? Now look at this. It's already got one of my templates being shown down here in name.
But where'd that come from?
So let's scroll all the way down to my templates.
Okay.
So inside of my templates, I've got an editor script and I have a mono behavior script. So I'll just simply select mono behavior because that's what I'm looking to extend. And then I can select set a name. So please call it just enemy. Hit add. Check it out. Enemy, extending mono behavior. We're using Unity Engine, and we have one of our functions set up. Now, this is how I like to work. It's as simple as I can get it. I have a good friend of mine, for those of you that frequent 3DBuzz all the time, you may know him, Mr. Chrono78, Lee, good guy. Now, he loves his regions, and I really like regions. Regions are things that you can set up that allow you to collapse entire sections of code. You'll notice that right out the gate right here, I can collapse some things, like I can collapse the class down, I can collapse my functions down. But, some people like to set up regions around their fields, their properties, and then all of their functions so they can just close those down.
Get them out of the way.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take the extra step and talk about setting things up that way, though you guys have seen how I generally work with my templates, so you can decide however you want to set it up. Basically, whatever code you end up putting in the file that you're going to use to create your template will then be available anytime you create a new item based off that template.
So like some default framework.
Exactly. So first things first, let's take a look at what happens with enemy when I come back over here to Unity. Click, and look at that. It's like Unity was there all along.
Cool.
So now if I was to jump back over here and we decide we don't want enemy no more, so we go ahead and delete it, it's going to ask us, are you sure? Because it's going to be permanently deleted. Let's go ahead and tell it OK. Jump back over. And now if we jump back over, it's like it was never there.
Nice.
Okay, so we can see that by working here inside of Visual Studio, adding and deleting things, Unity's going to keep up with you, which is excellent. Now, where do these templates reside? Let me drag one of my folders over here. You'll notice that we are inside my documents, Visual Studio 2008, up under templates, item templates, because we have two kinds of templates that we can create. We have item templates and we have project templates.
What's the difference between the two?
Well, a project template is setting up an entire project. Let's say that you create some sort of application. Let's say you need to create a bunch of them for whatever reason, and they start all pretty much at the same base, and then they have slight modifications. So you could go in and you can set an entire project up and then just go from there.
Gotcha.
And an item template would be, like in this particular case, where I'm wanting to do an item. I want to do a
single
class
part
file.
of a program.
Yeah. So from inside here, we can have things that are templates that are residing out here, meaning not in any of the folders, and then they're just going to show up everywhere. Or we can have things more specific and have those templates show up inside of one of the particular languages that we're using. So in this case, you'll notice there are the two templates that I have. So we have editor script and we have our mono behavior. Now, let's take these guys and just get them out of the way and watch what happens. So if I grab these guys, I'm just going to drag them to the other monitor. There we go. So they are now out of the folder. Let me just get this guy out of the way for a second. Come back over here. Let's try adding once again. So select scripts, right click, add, new item, It's no longer saying editor script 1 or mono behavior 1 because my template is now empty.
Gotcha.
Okay. So very simple to set one up. That's what we're going to do. We won't worry about dragging those other ones back in. I'll do that off video when we're done. So I'm going to create the file that I will be using to create my template. To do that, I'm just going to grab projectile and do a Control-C, Control-V. And now with this guy, let's just come over here and I'm going to give him a name. Let's call it Go. The name is completely irrelevant. Let's go ahead and double click him to bring him in. Now, I'm going to change this guy to Go. Again, this is completely irrelevant. I could call it Jason if I wanted to, because when the template is saved out, there's some stuff that's going to get changed around, such as the code that ends up going here in the template, so that the template is smart enough to know that whatever name we give to the file is going to be the name used for the class.
And we've already seen this when you created your template earlier and named it enemy. As soon as we opened this up, it already said enemy at this point.
Absolutely. So irrelevant. Now the next thing, we need to make a decision. What things would we like to be in the file when it gets created from our template? So right now, we're building that up, so we get to decide what using statements do we want. Well, I know we want Unity Engine, and by default, back over in Unity, anytime that you create a C# script, they're always using system.collections. So we'll go ahead and leave that there. So this stays very similar to what they have. Now, of course, we don't need any of these data fields here, so I'm going to come in here and get those guys out. And we don't need any functionality inside of our functions. That'd be kind of strange. I mean, we could.
But this functionality is very specific to this object.
That's right. And for me, I'm just going to take these comments out. I know what start and update do. That kind of drive me crazy.
Now, you'd mentioned regions earlier.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to set some up. I do want to point out that I am going to go ahead and leave start here because we do see start over inside the template that's used in Unity. So we're going to follow along with that. But again, for me, when I want code to appear in start, then I just go ahead and declare and use it right then.
Okay.
So in other words, I'm not always using start.
Right.
So let's set up some regions. So if I come in here and say pound region, and then give it a name like functions or methods.
I was going to say, you can use functions or methods.
And then come down here and do end region, like such. Look at that, automatically lined up with one another, and we can now collapse it. Here's what's nice about this. When I collapse it down, it just says functions. I generally don't throw a bunch of regions around things like fields, properties, and functions because, as a rule, I try to keep all of my classes small. The moment you have to start scrolling through a class, you really, in my opinion, you really need to sit down and think about everything that's in that class and make a decision on it. Is there a way that we can break it up? Because you really want to try to keep your classes small. And that's something that we will be talking about when we come back through in a more advanced video series and recreate this game yet again, but we're going to do it without the structure that we've been using right now. We're going to be using design patterns, etc.
Okay.
It's going to allow us to demonstrate a lot of really nice functionality in C# with just a very simple game. Okay, so we have that region set up in place, and let's go ahead. And I'm going to follow my good friend's Lee's setup. Let's go ahead and give the fields and the properties in case anyone else out there would like to do the same. So I'm trying to make Lee feel special here.
I see that.
So if we do region and go ahead and do fields. And again, we need to make sure that we have an end region. And then I'm going to come down and do the exact same thing for properties. So, and then let's make sure that we end them off like such. Kind of space that out a little bit. Now, if we want, close them, and you can see that's how things would look nice and neat. And it does help, and your code starts to get big. So there we go. We've got our infrastructure set up for our template. The first thing that I'm going to do is make sure that I save. So I'll just go ahead and do a quick Control-S. Now, to create the template, there's a wizard we can use. It's very easy. All I need to do in Visual Studio is come up to File, come down to Export Template, and then from in here, first thing, let's make sure our solution gets saved. It's going to ask us, do we want to create a project template or do we want to create an item template? I'm going to go ahead and create an item template, and of course it's going to be from the Project Simple game. So let's go ahead and jump over. And it says, all right, well, from Simple Game, this is what you have available. What item are you looking to export? Well, we're going to use our Go CS file. So let's go ahead and select that and jump over to next. It's going to ask us about any references that we would like to include. We don't need any. Go over to next. We're just creating a very simple file here. Next is going to be template name. What would we like to call this? I'm going to go ahead and call this, as you guys saw back there earlier when I was using one of my templates set up, I'm going to call this mono behavior. Such. Template description, we could just call it something like a game object script. Game object script. Script component, script object, doesn't matter.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Output location. So where is this template going to be outputted outputted to?
Yeah.
So from exported templates, I can grab this and I can then go give it to somebody else. We're just going to leave everything here, all defaults. Okay. So automatically import the template into Visual Studio and display an Explorer window. We don't need to do that because I've already got one open to the right. But I mean, for those of you that have not opened up an Explorer window, leave that checked. It'll automatically open it up for you so you'll see your template. So with all of this in place, and we're going to, of course, use just default icon. Let's just hit finish. And with that being the case, let's drag my folder back over. So nothing in here. Let's step from Visual C# up to item templates.
And there it is.
And there it is.
Okay.
And if we were to step back further, a couple, all the way back up to Visual Studio, there's my exported templates. You'll also find it up under there as well.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and jump up, jump back down, and back into item templates. So we now have it. So let's go ahead and drag this guy out of the way. Now I'm going to take go.cs, let's delete them out. We no longer need them. So now let's try creating that enemy once again. So if I jump back over here into Unity, you'll notice no go, no enemy. Very good. Let's jump back into Visual Studio. So I'm going to come over here to scripts, right click, add a new item. Look at that, mono behavior, and there's my description, game object script. And if I scroll down, my templates, there it is. So you can come and create all sorts of templates. If you find yourself creating a particular file with a particular set of statements over and over and over that you apply to a lot of game objects, you may want to just go and turn it into a template and save some time.
So from now on, you'll be creating all of your game object scripts here inside of Visual Studio.
Pretty much.
You won't be making them inside of Unity because now you've alleviated having to
creating them over in Unity, one of two things are going to happen. One, after you create it and you know you've got to get everything fixed up, you need to make sure your solution is resynced, or if you come back over to Visual Studio, it's going to notice that there is a synchronization issue itself, and it's going to ask you, do you want to reload everything, and then it'll fix it. So doing it this way, much less hassle, and it's a lot cleaner as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and give this guy a name like enemy, like such, and let's go ahead and add him. Let's see what we got. Well, look at that. Public class enemy extends mono behavior, and we've got fields that we can come in, we've got properties, and we've got functions. Very straightforward, very easy to use. As a matter of fact, seeing how in the next video we're going to be creating our enemy, we could go ahead and leave the script here and go from there.
And you'll be all ready when you jump to the next video.
Yeah. So any questions?
No.
You can see how this could definitely be a time saver.
Yeah, save you a lot of time as you move forward and have to create more game scripts using Unity.
That's right. Okay, so with that, that is going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.